What if the place you trusted the most was quietly stealing your freedom? You walk in seeking peace, and they promise healing. You sit among smiling faces, hear inspiring words, feel a sense of belonging. But beneath that warm surface, something deeper is happening, something no one talks about, something hidden behind tradition, doctrine, and holy language. And the saddest part? Most people never see it coming. Because when we talk about dangerous churches, we're not talking about places filled with evil people or obvious villains. No, these are communities that look normal, sometimes even beautiful. They sing together, they pray together, they cry together. But what many don't realize is that some of these churches are built on control disguised as love, manipulation masked as guidance, and fear wrapped in faith. You might be thinking, not my church, maybe not. But ask yourself this: have you ever felt afraid to ask questions? Ever felt guilty for doubting? Have you ever walked away from a service feeling more confused than inspired? If so, you're not alone, and you may be standing at the edge of something far bigger than you realize. Let's talk about the truth. Not the comfortable version, but the real one. The kind of truth that makes you pause, that makes you think, that makes you question everything you thought you knew. Because here's the thing, a dangerous church doesn't always shout its danger. It whispers it, slowly, gently, until one day you wake up and realize you're not the same person you used to be. Your confidence has faded, your voice feels smaller, your thoughts aren't truly yours anymore. And worst of all, you can't quite explain how it happened. These churches thrive on something deeply human, the need to belong. We all want to feel accepted, understood, loved. That's why their grip is so strong. They offer community, purpose, identity. But what they don't tell you is that sometimes those very gifts come with invisible chains. And make no mistake, these chains are not made of steel. They are made of guilt, shame, obligation, and fear. Fear of being wrong, fear of being cast out, fear of losing your place in a group that once felt like family. This isn't just about religion. This is about power, about influence, about the subtle ways our minds can be shaped without us even realizing it. Because when someone controls what you believe, they control everything, your choices, your emotions, your future. But here's what they don't want you to know. You have the right to question. You have the right to doubt. You have the right to seek truth, even when it's uncomfortable. And most importantly, you have the right to leave. Because real faith should never silence you. Real spirituality should never trap you. Real love should never scare you into staying somewhere that no longer serves your soul. So if you've ever felt uneasy, uncertain, or afraid to speak up, even in a place meant to bring peace, then this message is for you. Because what you're about to discover could change everything. It could help you recognize the signs before it's too late. It could help you protect your mind, your heart, and your freedom. Stay with me. What I'm about to share could be the most important truth you've ever heard. You were told that obedience is holy, that loyalty is a virtue, that questioning means you lack faith. But what if those beliefs were never really yours to begin with? What if they were planted in you, slowly, gently, over time, until they felt like truth? Because here's the reality. A dangerous church doesn't always demand your submission. It makes you want to give it. It teaches you that sacrifice is sacred, that surrender is spiritual, that giving up your voice is an act of devotion. And when you start to feel uneasy, when doubt creeps in, they tell you it's not them, it's you. That maybe you're not listening closely enough. Maybe you've been deceived by the world. Maybe you just need to pray more, read more, believe harder. But deep down, something doesn't feel right. And that feeling, that quiet discomfort is not weakness. It's not rebellion. It's not a sign of falling away. It's your soul trying to breathe. Let me be clear. This isn't about rejecting faith or abandoning belief. This is about protecting your mind, about guarding your heart, about recognizing when something that claims to heal is actually harming you. So how do you know when a church has crossed that line? How do you tell the difference between a place that truly lifts you up and one that subtly breaks you down? Start by asking yourself this: do you feel free or do you feel afraid? A healthy spiritual environment empowers you to grow, to think, to explore, to question. It doesn't punish curiosity or shame doubt. It welcomes both as part of the journey. But a dangerous church does the opposite. It thrives on your dependence. It feeds off your fear. It tells you that only certain people have the truth, that only a select few can interpret the word correctly. And if you step outside those lines, even just to understand, you risk being labeled weak, deceived, or worse. And that's where the danger lies. Not in doctrine alone, but in the way it's enforced. In the way leaders control access to truth. In the way followers are made to feel unworthy unless they conform completely. This is not spirituality. This is manipulation. And the worst part, it works because it feels good at first. You feel accepted, you feel seen, you feel like you finally belong. But over time, that warmth begins to tighten around you like a noose. You stop speaking freely. You hide your doubts. You silence your instincts because you've been taught that trusting yourself is dangerous. You begin to measure your worth by how obedient you are, by how much you give, by how well you follow, and somewhere along the way you lose the person you once were. Now ask yourself, who benefits from that loss? Is it God, or is it the system built around him? Because real truth doesn't need control to survive. Real truth stands on its own. It invites discussion. It welcomes inquiry. It grows stronger through honest conversation, not silence. But when truth becomes a weapon, when it's used to shame, to isolate, to manipulate, then it's no longer truth. It's power disguised as faith. And that's where we must draw the line. Not out of anger, not out of hatred, but out of love. For ourselves, for others, and for the very principles these places claim to uphold. If you're still reading this, if something inside you is stirring, then don't ignore it. Don't push it away because it feels uncomfortable. Discomfort is often the first sign of awakening. Because the truth is, you were never meant to trade your freedom for peace. You were never meant to give up your voice to find belonging. You were never meant to silence your questions to prove your faith. Real strength comes from thinking for yourself, from standing firm in your own convictions, from refusing to let anyone else define your relationship with the divine or with yourself. And if you've already started to see the signs, if you've begun to question what once felt solid, know this: you are not alone. And you are not wrong for seeking more. Because sometimes the most spiritual thing you can do is walk away. Not forever, not necessarily, but long enough to remember who you are. Long enough to hear your own thoughts again. Long enough to reclaim your freedom. And when you do, when you finally take that step into clarity, you'll realize something powerful. You weren't losing your faith. You were finding yourself. You've already taken the hardest step, questioning what once felt unshakable. And that act alone proves something powerful. Your mind is waking up. Your spirit is stretching. You are beginning to see beyond the surface, beyond the comforting words and familiar rituals, into the deeper truth of what's really happening. But now comes the part where most people stop, where fear creeps in again, where they wonder, what if I'm wrong? What if I misunderstood? What if everyone else sees it differently for a reason? Let me tell you this: doubt is not weakness. Doubt is the first sign of clarity. It means you're no longer swallowing everything whole. It means you're thinking for yourself again. And that is the most dangerous thing to any system built on control. Because here's how manipulation works. It doesn't scream at you. It whispers. It tells you that questioning is normal, but only up to a point. That doubt is okay as long as you keep it private. That obedience is holy, even when it feels suffocating. And over time, you begin to believe it. You start doubting your own instincts. You start fearing your own thoughts. You silence your questions because you've been taught that questioning means you lack faith. That doubting means you're vulnerable to deception. That walking away means you're rejecting something sacred. But what if the real deception isn't out there? What if it's inside the voice that tells you to stay quiet? The truth is, no belief system, no matter how well-dressed or well-meaning, is worth your freedom. No community is worth your peace. No tradition is worth your truth. And if staying costs you your ability to think, to feel, to grow, then staying is not strength. Staying is surrender. So why do so many still stay? Because fear is powerful, because isolation is painful, because being cast out from a group that once felt like family leaves wounds that don't heal easily. But here's what they won't tell you. Healing begins the moment you decide to face the truth, even if it hurts, because the pain of staying is always greater than the pain of leaving. The pain of pretending, of hiding, of living a life shaped by someone else's rules, of measuring your worth by how obedient you are, of silencing your doubts until they become a prison. That kind of pain doesn't go away. It grows. It eats away at your confidence. It dulls your joy. It makes you forget who you were before the rules took over. And that's when you realize you weren't losing your faith, you were losing yourself. So ask yourself again, who benefits when you stay small, when you stay silent, when you trade your freedom for comfort? Is it God, or is it the people who built a system around him? Because real faith doesn't need control to survive. Real truth doesn't need fear to be believed. Real love doesn't require submission to exist. And if you've ever walked away from a service feeling more burdened than blessed, if you've ever felt pressure instead of peace, if you've ever questioned whether your thoughts were truly yours anymore, then you already know what needs to change. It's time to stop doubting your instincts. It's time to stop fearing your own mind. It's time to stop letting someone else define your worth. Because the truth is, you were never meant to live under someone else's spiritual authority. You were never meant to give up your right to question, to explore, to grow. You were never meant to trade your freedom for acceptance. Real growth happens outside of control. Real healing begins with honesty. Real freedom starts the moment you choose to walk away, not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, spiritually. And yes, it will be hard. Yes, it will feel lonely at times. Yes, there will be moments when you wonder if you made the right choice. But those moments don't mean you were wrong. They mean you're human. And being human means learning, growing, changing, questioning, searching. And sometimes, most times, it means stepping into the unknown to find yourself again. So if you're standing at that edge right now, if you're looking out at the vastness of possibility and wondering if you have the courage to take the next step, know this: you already have more strength than you think, because you're still here, still searching, still asking, still refusing to let go of your truth. And that alone proves you're ready, not for destruction, not for loss, but for transformation, for healing, for freedom, and for a future where you finally get to live, not just survive. So take a deep breath, let go of the fear, step forward. Your journey has just begun. You've already faced the hardest part, admitting that something isn't right. That quiet voice inside you, the one that kept whispering, "This doesn't feel like freedom," has grown louder. And now, as you stand in that awareness, you might be asking yourself a question that feels terrifying. What do I do with this truth? Because knowing is not the end of the journey, it's only the beginning. And beginnings are messy. They're filled with doubt, fear, and the weight of decisions that can change everything. You may find yourself looking back, wondering how long you ignored the signs. You may feel anger at the time lost, the energy given, the pieces of yourself you handed over without realizing it. But don't let that pain become your prison, because healing doesn't come from blaming yourself for staying. Healing comes from choosing something different now. You were never weak for believing, or you were never wrong for trusting. You gave your heart to something that promised peace, and somewhere along the way, that promise was twisted into control. That's not on you. That's on the system that made you believe questioning was dangerous. That made you think obedience was the highest form of love. That taught you to silence your instincts in exchange for belonging. But here's the truth you must never forget. Your instincts were right all along. You felt the pressure. You noticed the subtle guilt. You heard the messages wrapped in holy language but laced with fear. You sensed when conversations turned from encouragement to manipulation. You recognized when faith became performance, when love came with conditions, when peace required surrender. And still, you stayed silent for a while. Because leaving isn't just about walking out the door. Leaving starts in the mind, in the soul. It begins the moment you decide you no longer want to live under someone else's version of truth. So what does that mean for you now? It means rebuilding trust in yourself first, rebuilding confidence in your ability to think, to feel, to choose, rebuilding your relationship with faith, free from the weight of control, rebuilding your identity outside of the expectations that once defined you. And yes, it will take time. You won't wake up tomorrow and suddenly feel whole again. The echoes of what you left behind will linger. There will be days when the old patterns try to pull you back, when guilt whispers in your ear, when fear asks if you made the right choice. But those moments don't mean you failed. They mean you're human. And being human means growing through discomfort. It means learning to trust yourself again. It means giving yourself permission to heal at your own pace. Because freedom is not an event, it's a process. And every step forward, even the shaky ones, are proof that you're moving in the right direction. You might be wondering, will I ever feel peace again? Yes, but it won't look like the peace you used to know. This new peace won't come from fitting in or meeting expectations. It won't come from silencing your thoughts or pretending everything is fine. This peace will come from standing in your truth even when it's uncomfortable, from speaking your mind even when no one agrees, from living your life according to your values, not someone else's rules. And that kind of peace, that's unshakable because it's built on something real, something lasting, something no one can take from you, yourself. You were never meant to lose who you were in the name of faith. You were never meant to trade your voice for acceptance. You were never meant to give up your right to grow, to question, to explore. Real spiritual strength doesn't come from blind loyalty. It comes from courage, the courage to face the truth, the courage to walk away, the courage to rebuild, and the courage to keep going even when the path is uncertain. So wherever you are right now, whether you're still questioning, whether you've already taken your first steps, whether you're in the middle of the storm, know this: you are not alone. There are others who have walked this road before you, who once stood where you stand, who once doubted, feared, and questioned everything they thought they knew. And they made it through, not because it was easy, but because they chose themselves. And so can you. So take a deep breath. Let go of the guilt. Let go of the fear. Let go of the need for everyone to understand. Because your healing doesn't depend on their approval. It depends on your decision to honor the truth that lives inside you. And once you make that choice, truly make it, you'll begin to feel something shift, a lightness, a clarity, a sense of self returning. And in that moment, you'll realize something powerful. You didn't lose your faith. You found your freedom. And that's where your real journey begins. You've come a long way. You took the first step when you allowed yourself to question. Then came the moment you faced your fear, and after that, the courage to walk away. Now here you are, trying to rebuild, trying to heal, trying to remember who you are outside of everything that once defined you. But healing doesn't happen in silence. It happens in connection, in sharing, in realizing that you are not alone in this journey. Because the truth is, there are countless others just like you. People who once believed without doubt, who gave their all, who trusted completely, until something inside them stirred, until they felt the weight of expectation pressing down on their spirit, until they realized that what was supposed to bring peace was actually bringing pressure. And now each of you is walking the same path toward freedom, toward clarity, toward a life that belongs to you again. This is not about rejection. This is about reclaiming your right to think, to feel, to grow beyond anyone else's definition of faith. Reclaiming your identity, not as someone who failed, but as someone who finally saw the truth. And that takes strength, more strength than most people will ever understand, because it's easy to stay in control. It's hard to break free. It's easy to follow the script handed to you. It's hard to write your own story. And every single step you've taken away from manipulation, whether spiritual, emotional, or psychological, proves how powerful you truly are. But even still, there may be moments when the old guilt creeps in, when the voices return, the ones that whisper, "What if you were wrong?" Or "What if you lost something sacred?" Or when those thoughts come, and they will, don't fight them. Let them pass through like clouds in the sky. Because they're not truth. They're echoes, leftovers from a system that thrived on making you doubt yourself. And you don't have to listen anymore. Because real truth doesn't need fear to survive. Real love doesn't require obedience to exist. Real peace doesn't demand silence in exchange for belonging. So let go of the guilt. Let go of the pressure to explain your choices. Let go of the need to justify your healing. What you went through was real. What you lost was valuable. And what you're rebuilding now is yours. No one can take that from you, and no one can tell you how to do it. Because healing isn't a formula. It's not a checklist. It's not about getting back exactly what you lost. It's about discovering who you are now. About embracing the new version of yourself that emerged through the process. And that version, she is stronger, he is wiser, they are freer, because they know what it means to face fear and choose truth anyway. So don't rush the process, or don't compare your journey to anyone else's. Healing is not linear, it has ups and downs. Moments of clarity followed by moments of doubt. That's normal, that's human. What matters is not whether you stumble, but whether you keep going. Because every time you choose yourself over conformity, you send a message to the world and to yourself that you are worth protecting, that your mind is worth trusting, that your heart is worth healing, and that your soul deserves to breathe again. So keep moving forward, even when it feels slow, even when it feels lonely, even when you wonder if it's really possible to live without fear again. It is, because you already did the hardest part. You woke up. Now it's time to live, not under someone else's rules, not in the shadow of guilt, not trapped by fear disguised as faith, but in the fullness of your own truth, in the power of your own voice, in the beauty of your own freedom. And when you finally stand in that place, when you finally see yourself not as someone who lost, but as someone who reclaimed, you'll realize something incredible. You didn't fall from grace. You rose into it. And now you get to live the life that was always meant to be yours. You've already proven something extraordinary. You listened to yourself. You trusted your instincts. You walked away from a system that tried to shape you, control you, define you. And now, as you stand in the space of rebuilding, you might be asking, what comes next? Because healing is not just about leaving behind what hurt you. It's about creating something new, something real, something that belongs to you. And that process, while powerful, can feel overwhelming. Because for so long, your life was guided by rules, expectations, and voices that told you how to think, how to feel, how to believe. Now, for the first time in a long while, you get to decide. But with that freedom comes responsibility. The kind that doesn't come with pressure or guilt, but with purpose, with intention, with the deep knowing that every choice you make from here on out shapes who you are becoming. So ask yourself, who do you want to be? Not who someone else wanted you to be, not who tradition expected you to follow, not who doctrine defined you as, but you, the raw, unfiltered, authentic version of yourself that has been waiting, sometimes quietly, sometimes loudly, for permission to rise again. This is your permission slip. You don't need approval to heal. You don't need validation to grow. You don't need permission to rebuild your faith on your own terms, because real strength isn't found in following someone else's path. It's found in walking your own. And that journey begins now with every small decision to trust yourself again, with every moment you choose peace over pressure, with every breath you take outside of fear, because freedom is not just a destination, it's a daily practice. A practice of saying no to control, of honoring your boundaries, of speaking your truth even when it shakes, of standing firm even when others try to pull you back. And most importantly, a practice of loving yourself enough to walk away from anything that no longer serves your highest good. This is not selfishness. This is self-respect, because the world needs people who know who they are, people who have faced their shadows and still chose light. People who have lost themselves and found something stronger in return. That person is you. And the power you carry now is not the kind that was given to you. It's the kind that was earned through pain, through questioning, through courage, through growth, and through the simple, undeniable act of choosing yourself again and again and again. So wherever you are on this journey, whether you're still shaking off the dust of what you left behind or stepping into the fullness of who you're becoming, know this: you are not broken, you are not wrong, you are not alone, you are simply becoming. And that process, however messy, however slow, is one of the most beautiful things there is. Because transformation never looks neat from the inside. It's only when we look back that we see how far we've come, how much we've grown, how deeply we've healed, and how much more we are capable of becoming. So keep going, even when it feels hard, even when the silence is loud, even when the road ahead seems uncertain, because every step forward, no matter how small, is proof that you are still rising, still choosing truth, still embracing freedom, still daring to live a life that belongs to you. And that, above all, is the most powerful statement you can ever make. Not with words, not with actions, but with the way you show up, as yourself, for yourself, and in spite of everything that once tried to change you, because you were never meant to live under someone else's shadow. You were always meant to shine your own light, and now, finally, you get to let it burn bright, unapologetically, powerfully, freely, because you are not just surviving, you are thriving, and your story is far from over. It's just getting started. You are standing at the edge of something powerful. Not just a new chapter in your life, but a new version of yourself. One that has been forged through questioning, through pain, through the quiet courage it took to walk away from what no longer served you. And now, as you begin to rebuild, there's something important you must remember. Healing is not about erasing the past. It's about reclaiming your power from it. Because every experience, every moment of doubt, every act of obedience, every time you silenced your voice to fit into someone else's definition of faith, has shaped you. Not broken you, not ruined you, but shaped you. And from that shaping, something stronger emerges, something real, something that can never be taken from you again. Because now you know the difference between control and guidance, between fear and faith, between manipulation and love. And that awareness alone makes you more powerful than most people will ever be. So where do you go from here? Not backward, never backward, but forward with intention, with clarity, with the deep knowing that your journey is yours to lead. Because freedom doesn't mean living without belief. It means choosing belief with your eyes wide open. It means building your values on truth, not pressure. It means defining your spirituality by what lifts you up, not what weighs you down. And that process begins with one simple yet radical act: trusting yourself. Yes, you've been told that trusting yourself is dangerous, that doubt is deception, that questioning is weakness. But what if those messages were never meant to protect you? What if they were meant to keep you small? Because when a system teaches you that only certain people have access to truth, it's not protecting your faith, it's controlling your mind.